close enough. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in it.
I like that you changed the strings and I didn't, because they kind of sound nice together.
Yeah. Rhett, what do you think of soloing on an acoustic guitar?
So I kind of hate soloing on an acoustic guitar because it sounds sort of plinky. Like it doesn't suit the character of the instrument to me. Like I want to hear more out of an acoustic guitar, which is why I don't typically solo with one.
So I will say, like, I used to be in the exact same boat as you. I have historically hated soloing on an acoustic guitar. Any time that it's come up where I've had to do so, I've always dreaded it. And I've heard guitar players play solos on acoustic that I absolutely loved. And so for the last like 6-7 months or so, I've been like trying to figure out how to solo on this instrument.
What have you come across? What have you found out?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I had to realize was that though there's so many similarities between an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar, you can't treat soloing on the two instruments the same. You have to think of them as different things. Because if you play an acoustic guitar and approach soloing like an electric guitar, you're trying to get it to do a thing that it's not meant to do. One of the first big things that I had to wrap my head around was like the touch thing.
Okay.
So when I'm playing an electric guitar, I might go like that whole type of thing that's like deeply rooted in like electric blues and Jimi Hendrix and stuff.
Yeah.
But as soon as you try to do that on an acoustic, it's not the same. Like the way that your guitar sustains, like letting those, you can hear like that's never going to stick out in a band or if you're playing with anyone else. Like the sustain is so much different. If I wanted to have like a big dramatic note, like you would do that on an electric guitar, let that note bend and ring out. I basically never bend on an acoustic guitar, which made me think a little bit differently of how I have to phrase things.
Utilizing a lot of open strings.
So that's like, I mean, that's a huge, huge thing with acoustic guitar. It's all about the open strings. That's what sounds so great on this instrument. It's like when those strings ring out, that's what booms, that's what fills out a lot of space. So I'm really thinking in a lot of ways, how can I incorporate the open strings? And if that's not available to me with like the key I'm in, that a capo goes on, I can do that. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to hit the open strings in a lick like a... Like I'm hitting this open strings as much, and with acoustic guitar, I'm trying to hit those open strings as much as I can. But there's a couple of cool things that you can think about to kind of bring them in a little bit more.
All right.
So an example of that would be this thing, I believe it's called like cross-stringing scales. And this is a thing that country guys use. Chet Atkins uses it a lot. And it's this idea that you play a lick that would otherwise feature closed strings, fretted strings, and you bring in the open strings as much as possible. I think the best way to explain this is just like show you an example. Okay. So say I'm in the key of G. We'll try to spend as much time in the key of G today. I love the key of G. A lick that I might play would be like just a descending thing. So like for the most part, I'm playing closed notes. I mean, I could even do that fully closed.
And that's just straight down the major scale, G major scale.
It's basically straight down the major scale.
Yeah.
Sounds nice, but I think it sounds even nicer if I'm now replacing any note where possible with an open string. What if I did this? That sounds so much better to me.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's like, okay, I'm going down my major scale, 8th fret, 7th fret, and then instead of hitting the 5th fret here, I hit the open E.
Yep.
And it kind of like adds a shimmer. Like I can still already feel like that E string that I hit earlier, it's still ringing out.
Yeah, I find myself doing that a lot more too, like on electric and acoustic. Like if we go to the key of A for a second, but like thinking about, you know, your major scale, your major pentatonic, which in this open position falls nicely in this. Yeah, as many open strings as you can possibly hit. Like there's so many licks that just sound so great. And now, like,
you don't feel like it sounds like you're not missing a thing. Whereas if I try to play like,
Right.
it's like I just wish I was playing an electric guitar. That would sound
it
better.
just doesn't fit the context of the sound.
I think like another big thing when it comes to playing, and this is for acoustic guitar or electric, it's just like something ingrained in the way that I think about music, is making sure that I'm not just playing notes. Like it's got to have like a direction. It's got to have an overarching sense of story. So if I'm playing a solo over like the key of G, like it could even just be like a G chord.
Yep.
Now one way to approach this is just like kind of disconnected notes and licks. And that sounds fine, but to me that doesn't have any direction. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just kind of playing notes for the sake of it.
Yeah.
But if I kind of like take some breaks and really try to build something out of the solo, make it have like a beginning, a middle, an end, a climax, then suddenly it has so much more intrigue and like a maturity to it.
Yeah.
So let's try that again. I'll try to like build a story now. So that's maybe Act 1. And now I'm kind of like moving somewhere, like I'm higher on the neck, right? It's clearly like what I'm playing now is not the same thing at the beginning. I've built up to something, and maybe now as I wrap up my solo, I go back and maybe try to reference one of the ideas I first played with. And maybe now I'm at the end of the solo, the conclusion. And now we're done the solo.
Right.
And so we kind of broke it down in 3 sections there. There was the beginning of the solo, but then it led to like when I'm playing up here and I'm playing in a little bit of a different way. Maybe I'm hitting harder.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm adding some more fancy licks. Like maybe I'm doing something. Like I'm playing a little bit more notey. There's a direction here. I'm not playing and incorporating the same things I did at the beginning of the solo and my end of the solo or like middle end. And then when I do come to the end, I'm trying to find a nice way to wrap it up. And so all this stuff, I call this like the way that you craft your solos. I have a whole course that goes deep into this stuff. It's called The Craft of Soloing. Throughout that, like we really break down a lot of the elements of musical storytelling that make it so you're not just playing notes. And the nice thing about a lot of this stuff is it's not like you need to learn a whole bunch of new techniques. It's not like you need to focus on running a whole bunch of exercises to be able to do that. It's one of my favorite courses that I've taught, and I believe we got a link in the description so that you can get that. It's like 75% off.
Yeah.
$20 for the course.
Yeah, check out the link below. 75% off Steve's course. You can also find links to his channel and Instagram, TikTok, all down there as well. And got anything else?
Got lots else.
All right, what's next?
Another thing that I do really like to add on acoustic guitar that I find doesn't work so much with an electric guitar is like I punctuate with chords a lot.
Right. Okay.
So let's play just give me like a G type of thing and listen to how like I'm gonna try to bring in full chords sometimes, but sometimes also like partial chords. So like right there, I just hit
Right.
as like it's little punctuations, and you can do full chords. like, yeah, punctuating it every now and then with like a chord like that, just like multiple notes at the same time, because just the nature of the instrument, it doesn't fill up as much space as an electric guitar, especially an electric guitar that's distorted. Like you're taking up a lot of space. And if you start adding chords when you're playing electric, it really fills up a lot of space.
Right.
Whereas with this, like... Some interesting things that I've come across that you just never would think about with an electric. So bluegrass players, they basically always play with a closed hand, and they never touch the body.
Right.
And the reason why is because as soon as you touch the body, it limits the sustain. Like, listen to this. Here's me touching the body, and as soon as I lift that off, it resonates more.
That's a recording trick I learned a long time ago when you're recording with an acoustic guitar. When you're actually sitting with it on your lap, a lot of times people will pull the guitar up against their chest, pull the back of the guitar like this, because it's comfortable. But listen to... Versus getting the guitar away from my body and letting the back resonate.
Totally different.
Completely different sound. One thing I'm noticing is you're using mostly triads, like triads up and down the neck, not just your open position triads, but when you're moving and utilizing these chord shapes on your solo, you're thinking about where these triad shapes are up and down the neck.
Yeah.
So that's why understanding your triads and knowing where your notes on the fretboard are and where your chord shapes on the fretboard are is super important.
And then also, like, if you can bring in an open string and like the key of G, this is great because the G is a drone string.
The cool thing is you can utilize all of that stuff over the different chords in the key of G major. So if I go down to E minor, which is the
I'll
sixth
play the
chord,
same thing.
four chord, five chord, so you're playing effectively the same notes, right? You're playing G major, the G major scale, or G major pentatonic. Maybe you're changing some of the notes, like our flat 7 every now and then for kind of a Mixolydian thing. But over the chords in the key of G major, when you're playing diatonically, you're playing in the key, all of that stuff works. And it's cool how it sort of shifts the feel and the vibe of what's happening based off of what chord is happening underneath your phrasing.
So that's one of the things that I'll do if I'm running out of ideas, like, you can always just go back to the melody, take that melody, incorporate it in your solo. You can even just like repeat the melody, which is why it like makes a ton of sense as a guitar player to actually like learn the whole thing. So for example, there's a bluegrass tune called Big Scioto. I'll play the melody to that, and then I'll show you what it would sound like if I go and like just use that melody as the source of the solo. So here is like a fairly standard version of the melody. 1, 2, 3. So that would be like the basic melody. Now, if I'm playing a solo, it always sounds great if like you can bring in that element of familiarity. If you reference a thing that the audience has already heard, they can latch onto it. It now sounds like it's related. It's all connected together. So here's a solo that kind of touches back on that melody a fair bit. 1, 2, 3. So I don't know, like I'm just kind of trying to go back to that thing. I'm trying to go back to that thing and using that as my source of inspiration for what I'm going to play. And
that's not unique to bluegrass. Like you can use that in any style of music, and it works especially well if you're playing with a band or a singer-songwriter or something, and it's time to take a solo. Even if you are a great improviser or you want to step out a little bit, getting back to playing the melody or playing the head is an awesome way to sort of kind of bring people back into listening to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So huge thanks to Sammy G for coming down to the studio to hang out with us. We've got a couple more videos on the way. Go subscribe to Samurai Guitarist on YouTube if you're not already. I'll have links in the description. Don't forget you can get 75% off of Sammy G's course linked in the description box down below.
Yeah, the craft of soloing.
Craft of soloing. Yep. Also, don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. It really helps the channel out. You can check out some of my video courses down there as well. And thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.